And now we will hear from the two candidates for the mayor of Cleveland Heights. The elected mayor will serve as the chief executive of the city, overseeing all departments and divisions of city government. The mayor will also serve as the director of public safety. It is a 4-year term, which pays $115,000 per year, and this is the first time the city will be having an elected mayor. Before we begin, a review of the rules. Each candidate will have 1 minute for an opening statement and 1 minute for a closing statement after a question and answer period. Time limits will be enforced. Only written questions will be accepted. If you would like to submit a question for the candidates during the live forum, please send it via email to heights@lwvgreatercleveland.org, and the email box is being monitored. League screeners will review submitted questions. This is not to block opinions or to skew information, but is in order to avoid duplication, provide a diversity of questions, and ensure readability and appropriateness. There are questions that are printed in the voter's guide, so we will not be asking any of those questions as they are already available. We will proceed with opening statements. The order of speaking has been determined. We will start with Barbara Danforth.
I want to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting this forum tonight, and thank the residents for tuning in to this very important forum that will help inform your decisions about our city's leadership. I've spent my entire career as an advocate and a leader. I know what it takes to be the face of an organization, to oversee hundreds of employees, to develop, implement, and manage budgets, and to make the tough decisions that come with leading an organization. If we are to fulfill the promise of our new government, we need someone who knows how to fill the role of mayor while ensuring transparency, accountability, and inclusion. Someone who will reach out to our citizens for input, just as I have done throughout my campaign, because together we can build a tomorrow filled with hope and possibility. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Seren.
Hi, I'm Council Vice President Kahlil Seren, and I'm running for mayor of Cleveland Heights because I see our potential and I want to use my government expertise to set us up for success. My administration will be bold and forward-looking. Our core values will be Cleveland Heights values. I became a public servant because I want to help people. For some, that means becoming a nurse or a teacher or a police officer. For me, I wanted to make government work better for the people it serves. Growing up, we're taught not to put family business out in the streets. Well, in government, we have to be transparent and discuss problems. Our business is literally the street, paving it, keeping them plowed, free of trash, safe for kids to play, for cyclists, drivers, and pedestrians. Cleveland Heights deserves a healthy, open, prosperous, equitable, and safe future, and I have a plan to get us there. I know that as mayor, I have to stay connected to the streets, meet people where they are, and start the conversation about what city they want. Thank you.
Mr. Seren. Turning now to questions, and I will continue my pattern, which should be easier tonight with just two people, so you'll take turns starting the question. So starting with Ms. Danforth. The mayor's leadership style, especially with his or her working relationship with council, is crucial. How do you plan to work with council to move the city forward?
I certainly intend to work respectfully and collaboratively with council so that together we can envision the future of our city, find out the points where we agree, find out where the points we have differences, build on our common ground, and work through the areas where we have differences so that we come to that place where we are in agreement on how to move our city forward. It's important to work collaboratively and to engage the residents as we are having this conversation so that the council and the city staff are aware of what the residents are interested in moving our city forward. But together, citizens, council, and mayor must find a common ground to move our city forward.
Thank you. Mr. Seren.
Thank you. I think that any relationship with the other branch of government needs to be grounded in respect. I've found that when an executive and a council meet in mutual respect and understanding of the roles that they play in our government, you can bypass a great deal of confusion and conflict and work together towards shared purpose. The kind of administration that I'd like to run will be not only open with the people of Cleveland Heights, but open with our council, making sure that they have adequate information, appropriate information to make the decisions, the important decisions that they make in legislation and budgetary decisions. I want to work hand in hand with our council, but I also want to assure the people that I will stand firm on Cleveland Heights values. And when there are disagreements, as there inevitably are disagreements between branches, I will make my position clear, I will be open to compromise, and I will respect the goodwill and the good intentions of the council as we make these decisions together.
Thank you. Mr. Seren,
Yes.
what are you looking for in a city administrator, and what role will they play in your administration?
I think a city administrator, according to the authors of the charter change that we voted into our charter, is a management position primarily. And so I'll seek someone with strong management experience, but that's just the start. What we really need in Cleveland Heights is someone who has that management experience and also change management experience in order to augment my own. Someone with a background in performance management, a background in process improvement, a background in helping an organization smoothly transition from one way of doing business to another. That's the kind of city administrator that I plan to find and incorporate into our city government.
Thank you. Ms. Danforth.
Our city manager has to be a person who is able to manage the operations of a multifaceted operation that is our city. So this is a person who will have to be detail-oriented, but also a person who is able to capture the vision of our residents, our council, and the mayor, and then take that vision, deliver it to the departments, help the departments work collaboratively together so that we are able to achieve the results that our city wants from us. So this is a person that will be able to engage well with the staff, able to work well with the council, and able to hear and understand the input from our residents, taking that back to our city departments and working all those departments together so that we get the accomplishments that we're seeking.
Thank you. Ms. Danforth. What would you do to address aging water and sewer lines, frequent power outages, inadequate internet service, and trash collection needs of renters and frequent movers?
Our infrastructure challenges are broad and deep, as they are for all older cities and inner ring suburbs. First thing we need to do is to carefully examine where each one of the infrastructure areas are. What are the strengths and the weaknesses? Where are the urgencies? And then to begin to plot out a plan to resolve them. So the problems are so complicated and very, very expensive, and alone there is no way that our city can address all the problems. And I have spent a lot of time working outside of my immediate environment in city governments, county government, federal government, looking for other resources to help us address those problems. But first we need a plan, then we need a budget, then we need a timeline and a way of getting this work done, because it is negatively impacting many areas of our city, our homeowners, our businesses. So we really need to have a level of urgency about developing the plan to move this forward with some resolution.
Thank you.
Could repeat that question for me, please?
I can. It's basically all public works. What would you do to address aging water and sewer lines, frequent power outages, inadequate internet service, and trash collection needs of renters and frequent movers?
All right. So I think the first step to understand is that you don't understand the lived experience of the people in your city by assuming you already know it. So I think we need to reach out proactively to people in our city, those frequent movers, those renters that we might not have immediate access to, and get their input about what would improve their lives. Now, when it comes to internet service, I think that there is an effort already underway in city government and outside of city government through activists to create municipal broadband. I think that that's something that we need to ramp back up and investigate. When it comes to infrastructure needs, I think, yeah, you're absolutely right. We need to look to the federal and state governments for more resources. But I think we also need to make sure that we are not compounding the problem through additional development without looking at the impact of that development on those beleaguered systems that we have in place already. So there are some prevention things that we can do and some development things we can do in order to fix this problem.
Thank you. Mr. Seren, what system will you put in place for citizens to use to register concerns, and how will you track the city's response?
All right, so we already have a system in place for residents to submit service requests and complaints. It's called Access Cleveland Heights, and I encourage everyone to take a look. If you use a smartphone, we have an app that you can use on your smartphone. You can register a complaint right there when you see it, geotag it, and we know exactly where to find it. That information is tracked, but I think that we need an additional system, a performance stat system, based on CompStat in New York and in Baltimore, so that we can track and have a constant conversation and communication with our departments about how we're resolving the issues that we take in. So either on the website, in service request area, on our app, or in a Mayor's Action Center where I will have people on staff ready to take concerns and complaints and bring them to the mayor's office, bring them to the departments for resolution, and track them and have an ongoing formal conversation with our departments in order to resolve these issues.
Thank you.
A lack of responsiveness from our city government has been a problem for the last several years. As I have traveled about in my campaign, I frequently hear people complaining that they have tried to get information from the city from a multitude of platforms and have often been left without any communication. So one of the first things that I intend to do as mayor is to create the mayor's hotline. I want to hear directly from the citizens what are the issues, what are the questions, what are the concerns that they have, which will give me an understanding of areas that we really need to work on and enhance within our city. Therein, I intend to work within the city to develop a structured system that will take over that responsibility. But the first thing, I want to be that first level of contact with the residents to know what those issues are that they've been complaining about, and not just to listen to them, but to go back and do the necessary research, to get the answers, and then to be sure that everyone who submits a question has some sort of a communication in response to their questions.
Thank you. Ms. Danforth, a question specifically for you. We've received variations of this question from a number of people, and so we felt it should be asked. Public records indicate that you have failed to pay income taxes owed to the city and failed to pay mortgage loans on several personal residences. In light of that, should voters be concerned about your ability to perform the duties of the mayor to prepare the city's annual budget and oversee municipal operations within that budget?
Well, actually, I'm very glad that this question has come up. So this question relates to a time that goes back in my life about 25 years. It was shortly after my daughter joined my family by way of adoption, and I was managing some unique needs for her. My father had passed. My mother had been diagnosed with cancer, and then she was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease. And for the first 2 years, I cared for her at home with some in-home assistance, which was not reimbursed. I later went out and got put her in assisted living, for which there was no reimbursement. And I went into bankruptcy and ultimately into a financial foreclosure and into a difficult place with my finances as I cared for my mother. Our medical system is failing those who are caring for people with dementia, and I did the best I could under the circumstances to care for my mother. I have no regrets about what I did. My mother got the very best care that I could provide, and my mother, as a result of good care, lived till she was 102, and my daughter is thriving. I made tough decisions to take care of the people that I loved.
Thank you.
I'd like to address this sort of in a different way. I'm concerned, and I've seen this occur in several other circumstances as it relates to Cleveland Heights government. I'd like to state unequivocally that I don't believe that the personal financial misfortune that can occur in people's lives should be fodder for negative campaigning. I think that there is, enough material for us to discuss about our professional backgrounds, about our successes and failures, about our values, and about our experience doing the kind of work that a mayor is expected to do, that we can avoid conversations about those sorts of personal issues. And so I'd like to express that publicly here and now. I hope that we can keep this campaign focused on our professional qualifications, our professional successes, and our qualifications for this position. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Seren,
Yes.
we'll circle back now to you. Regarding police, will new police reform policies include reducing the size and resources of the police department, or will you retrain existing officers to enhance their roles as community responders?
So I think that we've got a couple different pieces of this question. Police reform and assessing the size of our division of police are, in a way, two different questions. And I've stated this publicly in various electronic forums, but I'd like to state really clearly right now, there is no rhetoric or emotional, ideological way to determine the proper size of a division of police like ours. We need actual data. We need an analysis of staffing based on a verified and scientific method of choosing and selecting a staffing model for our police division. We can't do it simply by rhetoric. So police reform is a question of how we police ourselves as a community. The community decides that. When it comes to appropriate staffing levels and budgetary levels, that is a conversation for the mayor and the council to determine based on a staffing analysis that has scientific rigor.
Thank you.
When I served as chief prosecutor for the city of Cleveland, I had the privilege of working with the city's 2,000 plus police officers. And I fully came to appreciate how difficult that job is. And I also know that our police officers deserve our support. And so one of the things that I think we need to take a look at as we move forward, policing 5 years and 10 years ago was very different than it is today. There are a number of different studies and research that's being done around best practices. And I think that there are opportunities that we can look at some of this research, we can bring it into our city to find new ways to support the work that our police officers do. When we talk about reform, we're talking about issues of calls on mental health and particularly calls on domestic violence, both of which can be very dangerous or create additional problems. So we need to look at our best practices so that through research, through other information that we can gather, we can provide to our police force all the resources they need to be the best that they can be. And I want to say thanks to our Cleveland Heights police officers because they are great.
Thank you. Mr. Seren, we do have one question specific for you.
Okay.
City council records show that a high percentage of the ordinances you have introduced have failed to gain support from other council members, and also that you were the sole no vote on a high percentage of ordinances compared to no votes of other council members. As mayor, how would you approach such differences in working with council, other public officials, and area leaders, and should voters be concerned about your ability to work collaboratively?
Well, first, I'd like to push back a little bit and say that a high percentage of the proposals, the legislative proposals that I've made, actually pass with quite a bit of support. And so just on a factual basis, that is an incorrect premise in the question. But aside from that, I think that it's important to note what the votes were. And I'll give you an example. There was a development that was proposed for the site at the Medusa building. Now, I could tell, based on my expertise and my training and my experience in economic development, that there were some issues with the deal that was being proposed. Now, the rest of council does not have the same experience and training that I have and could not see the issues with the deal. Now, on that deal, I was the sole no vote. But what occurred as a result of that vote was not a project. The vote passed, the project went forward, but they couldn't get the deal done because of the exact issues that I called out in the first place. So I think you have to take a look at the substantive question that's before the council and ask why I voted no. And I'll tell you every single time I explain.
Thank you.
As I have talked to a number of people who voted against the transition on issue 26 to the strong mayor, one of the things that they fairly consistently raised as their concern was the inability of council and mayor to get along with each other so that things could get done. They cited some of our nearby communities in which this was happening. And so the collaborative relationship between the council and the mayor will be critically important if we are to move the agenda and the values and the achievements that we need here in this city. So collaboration and compromise are important because everyone will have different perspectives. And when you stand so firm on your own perspective and your own opinion, that's when work and results stall. That's when we get caught up in rhetoric instead of getting results accomplished. And so that collaborative attitude, that collaborative value will be critical to the new mayor and council.
Thank you. And turning now to our closing statements. In reverse order from opening, we will start with Mr. Seren.
Thank you. Thank you to the people of Cleveland Heights for watching this very short presentation of your mayoral candidates. Thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting this forum. I think we all know that what this will come down to is a question of where our values are in Cleveland Heights, what we want to see our new government do. Do we want to see a bold, forward-thinking government, or do we want to maintain a status quo management form of government? Now, I've been endorsed by both Josie Moore and our Councilwoman Hart, candidates in this race in the primary. I think that over the years, I've been a collaborative but also ambitious and entrepreneurial legislator in Cleveland Heights. I've sought the kind of change that we want to see in our city, and I'll seek it as mayor. It's always a good thing for us to be on the forefront of progress in Cleveland Heights, to regain our leadership position. Vote Kahlil Seren for mayor, and we will regain that leadership position in our region again. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Seren. And Barbara Danforth.
The first term of the new mayor is going to be a very unique experience. The new mayor is going to literally have to restructure the very form of our government. It's going to have to transition the culture of our city staff. This is going to be challenging work and requires executive leadership. Not someone who has led a committee, not someone who has worked on a team, but somebody who has led an organization, who has made the tough decisions, who has created the budget, implemented the budget, and hired and mentored and coached staff. This is a person who has had that leadership experience. And I am the woman to lead us into the future of promise and achievement. So on November 2nd, I hope that you will join me, Barbara Danforth, and we can start this journey toward a better and a brighter and a better future for our city. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This concludes our candidate forum for mayor of Cleveland Heights. We will resume in a few minutes with the candidates for the unexpired council term. Thank you.
Thank you.